So, mining is a very bad process for the planet. And the reason why mining is really bad, is it produces a lot of toxic chemicals, you destroy the environment, and so on. Within mining, though, there is a couple new alternatives that people have been promoting to get rid of all these problems. And one of them is using organisms to instead pull out drastically the amount of pollution and metals out of the ground and then concentrate it. I have a couple ways that this could, but people have promoted that this makes the soil better over the long run, but people have also said that this is not as profitable. I have some ideas to make this more profitable. The first idea is that plants that can concentrate it up to over 20 times with a normal natural occurrence the area. Well, what if we also use the plants as to make hydrocarbons and stuff, which are also impurity, which also is a product you can sell, because that's the main thing that uses up energy. So you're making two products. This will be done by taking a plant, heating up to 450 degrees Celsius about, and during that time, gas is put off. Now, if we constantly pump out gas, not all of it has to heat up to this high temperature. The second stage to turn this into hydrocarbons and vaporize it, leaving behind more other elements, is we put it through a catalyst. Now, there's some really expensive materials, but we're getting cheaper materials that can do this. And that catalyst is going to take the nitrogen products, and nitrogen can be attached to a bunch of things, and turn into N2, releasing a lot of hydrogen and some other stuff. That hydrogen can make everything else even more gases, but we can pump that hydrogen back in here without any oxygen to help heat up the thing, because it's going to produce heat, but also to help break it apart. Then we can also do this so it gets rid of some of the hydrogen at this lower temperature with some of the more with some of the smaller molecules this hydrogen can get rid of. Because at 450 degrees Celsius, most hydrocarbons are vaporized. So we can also make longer chained carbons, which can get rid of some even more hydrogen that we can feed back into here and help break apart the chemical bonds by taking rid of oxygen and stuff like that makes stuff stronger. Now, from here, we can let we can separate out all the molecules based on size using something called a vortex tube. A vortex tube separates out stuff by heat, and the hot, small gases can go here. The medium-sized hot stuff can go here. And the big stuff that's not reactive, like CO2, can be pumped out into a separate thing. Well, not CO2, N2, the colder gases that are not as much. The hotter gases would include CO2 and hydrocarbons, but not as fast-moving as hydrogen come out here. Now, vortex tube is actually, I've talked about it before, is really cool, but it's a tube where this part soil is bulkier, and you put in air and it spins around in very high speeds. And then you have at the end a plug, at the opposite end a plug that expands like this, and here you have another exit that's smaller. What happens is the hot gas comes out of one end, the end with the plug that's far away, as the hot gas kind of expands more outwards and heats and pushes out more in expansion, but that forces the colder gas to go out in the opposite direction and separates it out. Now, it requires high speed to really separate the gas and spinning, but it's quite efficient, and you can cool off gas a lot and also separate it into different types based on gases in air. Small molecules can move at different speeds. Molecules can move at different speeds depending on and have different temperatures in a mixture of air, depending also on the geometry. So some molecules move around a lot more because they're just a diatomic thing with, monatomic things like helium move around quite a bit because there's nothing in vibrations. Hydrogen has some vibrations because it can go, it's two molecules attached and they can spring back to forth together. Fancy molecules can move in fancy ways like CO or something, and there's all this movement that can interact and cause it to act like you have different temperatures or store a different amount of heat in the same thing. Then there's its size, and there's also mass, which are not always the exact same thing. At small levels, they're pretty similar. So now that we have this separated, we can put this into something called electrolyzer, like they use in the STEP or C2CNT process, and turn this into even more carbon-rich products, or just carbon that totally, and the hydrogen or oxygen that bubbles off can be refed into its chamber along with other things to help break it apart, or hot oxygen can be used to make a bunch of useful things, from breaking down wastes by burning it, or it can be used to make ozone, a strong oxidant, and a bunch of other useful things. Or we can recover some of this heat and use it back to heat up everything. Now, okay, that's right now a big mess. So now that we got that big mess out of the way for the beginning part, what else can we do? Well, we can also concentrate this before we take the plants in further using micro-remediation. So first, as you move up the food chain, stuff can get more and more concentrated because toxins accumulate first by a certain percentage in like a plant, let's say 2 times. I'm making up this number. It can be actually it's actually much more like a couple hundred times. So this is a very low number. And then in the thing that eats plants, it can accumulate additional amount of times, and so on and so on. So let's say if it's 2 times first in a plant and anyone eats it, it's 4 times. Now fungi can concentrate stuff by thousands of times to millions of times. So you can have a fungi growing off these plants that could concentrate it. And if you feed a fungi into a reactor, that's even more efficient. Less stuff you have to heat up and break apart. And the plants, leftover decayed plants material, is now perfect for fertilizer to put back on the place. And the soil gets cleaner. So, and also, another advantage is fungi also can help break down organic toxins a lot better, like bisphenol, however you say, bisphenol. I have trouble saying a lot of words, and a lot of words I this read, with the endocrine disruptor, alkaloids, a bunch of them. So that's another way to concentrate it. And if we make these, and some fungi repel animals, so you could also use to repel animals so not eating up. Another one is we feed the plants toxic water with a lot of minerals. And now you're like, oh, so now you're telling me to put a lot of toxic metals in the water. Well, the water, if we use already contaminated water, and you close it off, we kind of just clean up the water and the soil. Or we don't use any soil at all, and it's just hydroponics or aquaponics. So we just clean up that water that's contaminated. And you can even further concentrate the water using kind of like reverse osmosis, but not as good. Reverse osmosis doesn't have to purify the water and make it more dirty. You could also use it to remove not only toxic metals, but non-toxic metals, because it's also concentrate gold and stuff like that, and copper. And a ton of gold and copper is literally flushed down the toilet or gets into the toilet stream. So that's a big bonus right there. And now that the leftover product is profitable, it's also good that way. Another way is that if you could maybe make this to some habitats for some creatures. Now, yes, it's a toxic one, but it might be better than just leaving it no toxic. And then you can have like bugs and stuff grow. But then you have to think about, does the toxin spread out far away or stuff like that. So these are all possibilities, but to make this really widespread, I think we would have to have a legit, also economic incentive to really get the ground going, because you need a big initial investment. But beyond a big initial investment is that even if this was profitable stuff, people don't always do the most profitable thing. That is a lie, because people get really stuck in the old ways, or only know how to finance the old ways, or training and stuff required, which is why I think this really needs a government push. Well, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours. And the reason for this is that I want to put a side income and I want to also devote more time to this, which will mean higher production quality and some other things. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and share it. And also you can leave a comment below, which really helps. If you have any ideas for future videos, comments, questions, or compliments, or anything. Well, thank you very much. Goodbye.